I'm Brandon. I'm from Grambling, Louisiana.
I'm Adam Blake. I'm from Seattle, Washington.
I'm Michael from Ruston, Louisiana.
My name is Benji from Jersey with NFL Playmakers. What's going on, guys?
All right, guys. So I think we should get started. And the first topic I really want to talk about is how the Bears just buffed up the O line. So really, my first thought on this is that next year I see Caleb Williams taking a huge leap. We already seen that the Bears have been spending money this offseason. And I already know they're going to get better through the draft like they did last year. And you give Caleb Williams three new O linemen at the spots that were the weakest last year, you could see like a very, very, how do I put it? You could see a very huge leap with Ben Johnson and everybody that's there right now installing a game plan, and then with the new additional O line that they just added, that can really, really ramp up the Bears' offense, in my opinion.
No, most definitely agree. Yeah, and like where they hurt the most was just those runs, the nose tackles and those D tackles that are really good pass rushers, just pushing right through. He was running for his life basically from the beginning of the snaps, and almost had no chance. So I really think a big thing is going to be who's going to be that Amon Ra for them. Really, is it going to be DJ Moore? DJ Moore is probably the most likely guy. But you never know. It could end up being any of their receivers, honestly. What are your thoughts on that, Michael?
I'm gonna touch base with you on that. I totally agree with what you're saying because DJ Moore and Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was the number two draft pick last draft, and just it was one game that I saw when the Chicago Bears were playing Detroit Lions, and Detroit D line was just they weren't even blitzing that time. It's like the O line was just having miscommunication, and the fact that the Bears have the cap space to get these all-pro tackles, and they might even go in the draft and get more depth at the tackle position. You got to think about that too. Do they have enough tackle position to where somebody gets hurt? Okay, it's next man up. So I think it's good for Caleb Williams and DJ Moore because Caleb Williams deserves help, and I feel like the Bears made the right approach to understand that Caleb Williams is our top starter, so we have to get as much help for him as he possibly can because he's our starter. He's our franchise starter, and from what they know. I don't know what Chicago Bears fans may be thinking, but he could be. But the only way he can be is if you have help. Exactly. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Adam, and I'm gonna pick up on what Brandon said. It's a big change for the Chicago Bears. I feel like if they get this offensive line help and these guys come in and they develop, because you got to think about that too. They can come in, but at the same time, can they develop game in and game out? Because I done seen where these big name players that come in, they don't do anything. So hopefully not just their name and their playmaking, but their skill level will benefit off of how much they want to be and how much they want to go. Benji, what you think, bro?
I mean, we keep hearing people saying that this is a copycat league. I mean, we're gonna get into this later as well, but I mean, you also look at the Commanders too. I mean, all these teams are adding tackles for their young QBs. They got Laramie Tunsil, but talking about Joe Tooney here. I mean, it's huge that they got him for a 4th-round pick. I mean, when you think about it, he's a veteran tackle. He's been in the league forever, and he's been on the Chiefs forever, and he's been their starting tackle for all these years. So when you talk about developing a young QB, they got to have a new regime with Ben Johnson. It's huge that they're building these lines, and the reason why I call it, why I bring up copycat league is because we just saw this in the Super Bowl. Look what the Eagles did to Mahomes. I mean, they exposed their O-line completely, and they did that by stacking the D-line. So now what do you see teams doing? Stacking the O-line for their young QBs that they know are not going to have enough time in the pocket, even if they had a good O-line, because they need time in the pocket to, scan the field and see what they want to do with the ball. But, going back to that point, I think it's huge that they got them for a 4th-round pick. I think it's a steal.
Absolute steal.
And, it opens up what they could do at the 10th pick. they could easily draft Ashton Genty if he's sitting there at 10, because teams are saying that can't really draft a running back in the first round of the draft, but you look at teams that are set up for this in the top 10 that are being rumored to take Genty, Raiders, Bears. Look at those two teams. They're building both of their O-lines. Not as so much the Raiders, but they're sort of set up to take a player like that.
Oh, and just to chime in real quick, it makes sense with Ben Johnson being the head coach. He just took Jahmyr Gibbs. We've seen how well that worked out with the Lions. So if Gianti is there at 10, I think he's going to take him. Otherwise, I really do think the Raiders are going to take him at 6, though.
And now, Adam, what was a team that stuck out to you in free agency so far?
I mean, the Bears might be the biggest winner. But I'll talk about the Seahawks a little bit. Sam Darnold. I think that's a big move. Some people will say it's a lateral move, and in a lot of ways it is. I think he's like a similar level of player, similar peak as Geno Smith, but at the same time, we're moving back in time. We're going back 7 years. Getting a 27-year-old, he's the same age as Kyler Murray, and I saw a stat the other day, and that surprised the crap out of me. Probably surprised most people. He's only 2 years older than Brock Purdy too, so I think especially with the Rams getting rid of Cooper Kupp, maybe the Seahawks pick up Cooper Kupp now. I think he'd be perfect with JSN, and then maybe the Seahawks still could go wide receiver at 18, and then Cooper Kupp could just kind of be that wide receiver 3. But it opens up a lot of opportunities now. Definitely don't need to go Jackson Dart 18. Maybe he falls to the second round, and then they move up around like pick 40, 45, somewhere in there. Yeah. Team that's standing out for you, Brandon?
Let's see. I think the team that's probably standing out to me the most is Chicago. As much, I know that we just touched like on the Chicago topic, but Chicago is doing so much. That front office is doing so much right now that you're only gonna keep seeing improvement as the like throughout the draft, even through the draft. Because you're adding all these additions, and then you go into the draft with good picks, you can snag somebody good in the draft and just either help boost up that defense that is pretty solid already, or give Caleb Williams another weapon to make that offense even more high-powered.
The biggest thing for the Panthers is locking down J.C. Horn. Definitely a top 5 corner in the league. They're giving him big money, but we've learned from the Bengals that you lock down your guys when you can. It's cheaper to pay them now than to wait like 2-3 years, especially if you know they're studs. Let's talk about the Bengals, I guess, for a second. Jamar Chase could have gone for 35. Now you got to pay him more than the highest non-quarterback, so Myles Garrett, and maybe Micah Parsons gets another contract for them. Then it's like they need to do it soon. Right now you're gonna probably pay like $43 million. T. Higgins would have been like $20 to $23 million. Now he's gonna draw parallel to DK Metcalf and be like, well, I'm worth that or more. They could have got Trey Hendrickson for around $20 million. Now they're having to they could have had everyone. They could have even kept Jesse Bates a couple years ago. So they've really made a lot of front office bad decisions, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I just think the Panthers, and I think their goal this offseason is really to improve that defense. Just by all the key signings I've seen and all the mock drafts, you go after somebody in this draft, fix the defense. Because they've already extended J.C. Horn. They've already signed these defensive players in free agency, and they just keep improving throughout the draft. I think that's their main goal, and that's something that I like because they're really tackling that defense. And sometimes we see teams tackle it, but sometimes we don't. Like, for instance, the Cowboys, like I said, the Cowboys are my team, but I see multiple times then throughout where the Cowboys have these clear needs that they need on this team, and they do not tackle it. And I just like how the Panthers are addressing that. The defense has these holes, and they are addressing this issue through the draft and through free agency. Michael, would you like to piggyback off of anything?
Yeah, I want to say the team that kind of let me say not kind of. Let me say the team that surprised me the most throughout free agency is one. I'm gonna say the Bears. Two, I'm gonna say the Jets. Um, those are my top two teams that I've seen that have surprised me in free agency. And I'm gonna start with the Bears because they did just sign Kansas City center Joe. What's his last name? Thuney or something like that.
Yep, Joe Tooney. Yeah.
That's that's a big key signing for the Bears. That's probably the biggest signing on their offensive line because he has been part of almost every single championship caliber team. Because remind you, he was the center for Tom Brady when he was in New England. You know, I seen on Instagram his resume to where I think he only missed the playoffs like one time in his career, and that's big because not only do you have veteran help, but you also have experience the way he can teach the other offensive linemen. And then, like I said, like I was saying earlier, they could possibly draft offensive lineman. I'm thinking Will Campbell from LSU. They can get him at right tackle, left tackle. You know,
He might just be sitting there.
Right. That's a big key signing. And like I said, for Caleb Williams, because Caleb Williams is very talented and he's not a pocket, quarterback. He's a quarterback that like, I'm gonna find ways to get out of pocket. And the only way he can do that is if he has more time. And that signing from Kansas City, that's huge. I was surprised Kansas City even let him go because the championship run that they had, I figured they was gonna re-sign all their players. But the fact that Chicago was able to grab him just like that just shows you that they know the top list of what they need to take care of before they even get to the draft. And then with the Jets, they've been making key signings. They're trying to rebuild. As far as the Aaron Rodgers situation, I don't know what they're going to do about that. I don't know much about what the Jets have done, but all I know is they have made big key signings to where it's like, okay, let's make sure we take care of this first, and then let's take care of that, because that's the whole part of free agency. Take care of what you can take care of before the draft gets here, and if you want to add more depth at that position, add more depth at that position. Or if you want to go a different route, you know what I'm saying? It's all a pattern. That's why free agency comes first, way before the draft even gets here, because that gives you an opportunity. If I'm a general manager, I'm like, okay, like for the Saints, for example, I need to figure out what top position that we really gonna need in the draft. If we can't get in free agency, what is the big key position we're gonna need right now? And if we can't get it right now, who can we get in the draft? I'm thinking Will Johnson from Michigan. You know what I'm saying? Or, at the cornerback position. Or, at the safety spot. We just signed Justin Reed, so you can scratch that off. You can keep that safety spot as a list. But again, I was really surprised with the way that the Jets have been doing in free agency and that the Bears are doing in free agency. And I'm gonna tell y'all this now. I would not be surprised if the Bears and the Jets just surprise everybody and just be like, dang, the Jets are really taking care of business because they stood on what they knew what the problem was.
But basically, like I was saying before, like Michael said, how the Jets and they're signing all these players. I think like the one big name I like is Fields because he's a playmaker that can create so many opportunities with these players. And then, like for instance, now I have Warren going to the Jets. I think Warren going to the Jets is perfect in a sense now that you got Justin Fields, basically. Benji, you...
All right. So yeah, piggybacking off of Michael, it's kind of worried about what Muji was going to do at the start of his, his regime here. He's a brand new GM. He's never been a GM before. He was an assistant GM in Denver, so a little worrisome going into this off season. But he's, as Michael said, they're filling in holes that they actually need. Their biggest holes right now that stick out to me on defense were safety and corner. And what did they do? They signed a safety and a corner. So they might not be the biggest stars in the league or anything, and Brandon Stevens, but they're going after these budget guys that might turn out to with better coaching with Aaron Glenn, that he was a DB himself that played for the Jets, maybe he can help them out there. But piggybacking off of Brandon with Justin Fields, I called this on the podcast last time, and Adam, you told me I was wrong.
You did. I did.
Justin Fields is a Jet, and I can't be happier, honestly, because I honestly wanted to pick him instead of Zach Wilson at that draft, to be honest. But that pro day that Zach had, kind of wowed everybody and reeled everybody in. But kind of going back to, Fields and the Jets here, um, going back to what Michael and Brandon talked about, Fields coming to this Jets team. I think the biggest thing for me, and it's just so obvious to me because he's my favorite player, but so I'm a little biased here, but he's reuniting with his college wide receiver Garrett Wilson. And if that doesn't tell you anything about what's going to come up to this, what's upcoming to this next Jets season, is that they're going to have a connection already, and it's going to be like this. Because when they balled out at Ohio State, they balled out. And another receiver that was on there was Chris Olave. But I mean, you look at this Jets team, the way it's set up, they also signed Andre Cisco to a one-year deal. And like I said, it's these cheap budget guys. And I think Muji's doing an okay guy so far. And I kind of saw that the Ravens fans were kind of, going after Stevens a little bit. That, oh, this guy always gets burned. But like I said, I think the Jets are going after these guys where they could just mold. Fields is only 26. Like, he could end up being the guy if he really wants to. And I think from Fields' perspective, it's the perfect thing for him as well because, look what he did with the Steelers last year. They benched him after a 4-2 start. Why they did that why they put Russ in instead of Fields, that might be a controversial take from Coach Mike Tomlin, but you look at Justin, there's a lot of upsides with him. You look at quarterbacks in this league, they're mobile, they're fast. Fields could be one of the top three. He could be behind Lamar Jackson if he wants to in rushing QBs over Josh Allen. I'll say that right now. But, obviously I'm a little biased because I'm a Jets fan, but mark my words, Justin Fields will get it done on the Jets. And if not, Arch Manning, baby! But, no. In all seriousness, I'm fully rooting for Justin Fields. I love him as a QB. And like I said, if we keep building this line, Brandon said, Tyler Warren, if we draft him at 7, that would be amazing for our run blocking and just our run offense in general. We already have Breece Hall, and Brandon Allen and Justin Fields as well. So we're going to be a big body football running team next year, and I honestly can't wait because that's what we need to return to after all these years. So yeah, I'm super stoked, but a team that stuck out to me other than the Jets were the 49ers. And I don't know if you'll notice this, but the 49ers lost so many players, y'all. They lost so many players, y'all. And not only that, but most of them were on the defensive side of the ball. And it's interesting to see because you see Coach Robert Saleh coming back as a defensive coordinator after being fired from the Jets. But, it's interesting to see that because all these defensive guys are leaving after their old defensive coordinator is coming back. I don't know if that correlates to anything, but, they're signing these new deals. But just to go over these real quick, Greenlaw, they lost Greenlaw to the Broncos. They lost, who
big
else
one.
did they lose? They lost Leonard Floyd to the Falcons. They
Hufanga
signed him to
too.
a one-year deal. They're losing a lot of these guys, and that defense is just going to look completely different next year. They lost Javon as well. So, to the Vikings. So that's a team that stuck out to me. That defense, I don't know what's gonna happen. They're gonna have to pay Purdy. I think that's the main reason why they're not paying all these guys. Is because they're just gonna have to pay Purdy.
But
he
I
might end
think in a
messing up the QB
sense,
market again.
yeah, but I think in a I bring up the question. Okay, I called it because I wrote down my notes. The 49ers offseason purge, called it that. They're getting and I don't think it's not even just on the defensive side, the offense side of the ball too. They've gotten rid of weapons, so I think you're going to pay Purdy. Like, I get that they want to pay Purdy, but how can you pay Purdy when you don't have no weapons? And I get Debo was not as productive as he was last year, or the year before. But in a sense, you have you're giving your weapons are leaving, and not just like you said on the defense side of the ball, but on that offense side of the ball. When you don't have weapons and you want to pay a quarterback, what are they going to do without the weapons?
Exactly.
One name I will throw into the hat, Ricky Pearsall. Beginning of the season last year, of course, everyone knows he got shot and then came back and, gained a lot of street rep from that for sure. But if you look at the end of the year, those last 5 games, He had some really, really big games, and I really think he could be that second field stretcher. So, I mean, I really do think they still have something there, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And then they still got George Kittle, obviously. But on the defensive side of the ball, I love watching them go. And then just to change paths a little bit, I just want to go back to the Jets. You were talking about that Ohio State connection. So Justin Fields throwing to Garrett Wilson at Ohio State, 1,201 yards, 11 touchdowns, 22 catches of 20 plus yards, and a 133 passer rating. So that's pretty dang good. So that chemistry is already there, and I really think they could have a big season. We'll see. There's that division. There's a lot to happen in that division. You got to overcome the Buffalo Bills, obviously, but the Patriots they're still easily passable at this point. They're building. Already spent a ridiculous amount of money yesterday.
Yeah. Chime in really quick.
Yeah. No, please do.
One more point about Justin Fields is that they also gave him a bridge contract. They only signed him for 2 years, $40 million. So, as happy as I am, as him being the quarterback, they didn't completely screw themselves if he, turns out not to be the guy this year.
Yeah.
Because, it's a 2-year contract. They could have not to, bring him back next year and, could end up with a top pick in the draft next year. So, but
Yeah. Piggybacking back off of that, I'll pass right off to you in a second, Michael. In my most recent mock, I didn't know where to put Shedeur Sanders. I truthfully did I almost had him falling into my top 10. I ended up having him going to the Jets, so it's interesting that you say that Justin Fields could still be that bridge quarterback. I think he could learn some things from Shedeur, and then if Justin Fields doesn't work out, maybe you put him out there. But if he's sitting there at 7, I think the Jets at least got to consider it. Obviously, he's a very good player. That's someone to consider. You could go many different spots there. But yeah, you want to chime in there, Michael?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick back up. Well, I'm gonna pick back up on that Shedeur thing because I need to speak about that. But the thing that about Justin Fields that I really liked was his skill level. He has a very good field presence. He has a very good pocket presence. He just needed more time. He needed more time at the starting position. And I think, like I said, this is a good signing for the Jets, and this is also a good signing for Justin Fields. Just to get his feet wet, get himself out there. Because, Justin Fields, in a way, reminds me of Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler is such a talented quarterback for the Saints. He just needs more weapons around him. And the Jets, they still have that. Even though Devontae Adams, he was released. At the same time, they still have talent. They still have talent on that offense. So I just feel like, with Justin Fields, that 2-year contract, that's actually a decent contract because he could have got a 1-year contract. You know what I'm saying? Do or die situation. But they gave him 2 years instead of 1. That's a big difference. And I feel like with a lot of help with Justin Fields, just like you said, back at Ohio State with Garrett Wilson, the connection is back. And that's a good thing, not only for the Jets, but for those two guys, because they were teammates and they had a really good connection at Ohio State. But like I said, this is a really good signing for the Jets, and this is a good signing for Justin Fields. I feel like it's a good sign for Justin Fields because if it's not the Jets, who else is it going to be? I don't want to put Justin Fields somewhere where they don't have no talent. They don't have no, receivers that can catch. They don't have no offense that can move the ball up and down the field in certain situations. And let's not forget, Justin Fields, he has quick feet. Let's not forget about that. Justin Fields can move. I think we can all agree on that Justin Fields can move. So,
motor.
Once you get the offensive line and the receivers and the running back situation take care of, I feel like Justin Fields will be in a really good position. The only thing my concern with Justin Fields is how much time does he need? Does he need longer than 2 years? Does he need that? It's just depending on what he's comfortable with. And then to speak about the Shedeur Sanders situation, at first I was going to have him go to the Raiders. But they signed Geno Smith on the trade with the Seahawks. So now it's like, where do you put Shedeur Sanders? And, first of all, I'm not going to be on here and talk down on Shedeur Sanders like most of these commentators. saying that, oh, he's only in the field because of Deion Sanders. First of all, let's go ahead and scratch that off the table right now.
Yeah, it's not
Let's
true.
go and scratch that off the table right now. Because
He's an
Shador
amazing
Sanders
player.
is a talented, well-skilled brother.
He's
That guy
tough
there,
too. He's tough.
exactly. And a lot of people are like, he's too cocky. And I was like, how many players have we ran that's cocky in the NFL? I can name a few players on my mind right now that are cocky as world and they are doing well in their career. So I don't care about the cockiness. My thing is, first of all, I don't think he's cocky. I think he's just confident. He has a very strong
confidence versus arrogance. Exactly.
I don't see cocky. I don't see cocky. And the people that see cocky, they're just negative. I see Shador as a very confident player, and that's good because you're going to need confidence going into the draft. I just don't know where I would put Shador Sanders. I guess you could put him with the Patriots. I guess you can put him with who's the number one team in the draft?
Tennessee
Titans. Tennessee Titans.
I guess you can really put him with the Titans. But a lot of people have been talking about that I can't think his first name, but his last name is Ward from the Miami Hurricanes.
Cam Ward,
A lot of people, Cam Ward, yeah. A lot of people are saying that he should be number one for the Titans, and then a lot of people are saying Shador. As a matter of fact, I don't mean to jump off script here, but let me ask y'all about that. Where do y'all see Shador landing in the top 10 in the draft? Now, as far as the Saints, we're not going to draft him. I'm just going to let you know that right now. Mickey Loomis is not going to draft Shador Sanders because I just don't see that happening. If he does, that's surprising to me. But Brandon Cowboys, Adam Seahawks, Benji Jets, where do y'all see?
I think honestly, I think the fate of Shador Sanders honestly rests on the hands of Kirk Cousins' shoulders because the Browns honestly want to sign him, and if they do sign him, I mean, they could still draft Shador at 2, but do you really think they take a QB still at number 2 when it's technically not the greatest QB class ever? Assuming Cam Ward goes 1 to, doesn't matter if it's the Titans or the Giants, but I personally, that's what I think. I don't think Shador falls after 2 if the Browns do not if the Browns don't sign Kirk Cousins. If they do, however, it's going to be pretty interesting to see where Shador lands because, I mean, as you mentioned as the Jets before, that would be something because, to be honest, like we said before, Fields is on a 2-year deal. It's a prove it or move it deal. You either win us games or you get out, and I'm praying that he wins this game. But and I'm rooting for him. I love me some Justin Fields, but going back to Shador here, I mean, wherever he goes, he's going to change the franchise no matter what. I think that's just a given. But
yeah,
I personally don't think the Jets would take him at 7, even if he was there, just considering how many holes are on this team. And, even it depends who's just sitting there. But, with the Raiders, with Geno Smith, I think, honestly, they could sit Shador after Geno. They could still do that because, they have the older head coach in Pete Carroll. But if I had to take a educated, not an educated guess, but if I had to say where Shador Sanders would go, I would say the Browns.
Okay. So, like Benji said, I think Shador Sanders' fate lies on if Kirk Cousins goes to the Browns or not. In my initial mocks, or in some of them, I have Shador going to NY or New York. The Giants. I think it's like a perfect. Shador wanted to go to New York, and I know him being in the Giants could be a good fit for him. But like you said, how the fate lies because Cleveland could very much well take a quarterback. They need one, and that lies if Kirk Cousins goes there. Because if Kirk Cousins goes to Cleveland, there's no need to draft Shador right there in a weak QB class. You can take somebody like Carter and put him on the other side of Myles Garrett and buff up that defense. So it just, like you said, in my opinion, the fate lies on Kirk Cousins if he goes to the Browns or not. Because if he doesn't go to the Browns, I think he will drop in the draft, pretty much.
And honestly, I can't even believe that we'd even mention Myles Garrett. I mean, big boy got paid. Like, yeah, that's the biggest thing in this draft. Everybody was saying Shador at 2, Shador at 2. Or no, sorry, Abdul Carter at 2, Abdul Carter at 2. They need to replace
what if they
Myles
have both?
Garrett, but they could pair him. But
that'd be nasty.
It's interesting because the Browns could go in all kinds of sort of directions now.
Yeah, it's
But
just like
I see your point there. That would be
with
Yeah.
these teams that like need like the Browns that have so many different holes and so many like you said, it can either like you said before, it can either be the best player at that spot at 2, or you can just go and fix a hole. It's just up to the what the Browns front office does.
So, okay, one scenario we're not talking about. Something I read today was, what if the Browns beat the Giants and just move up to 1 before the Giants move up to 1? It would be potentially quite a bit less to move up just 1 spot than 2 spots. On top of that, I don't for some reason I just don't think they're gonna take Shedeur. I don't think the Brown, like, maybe they're being sneaky about it, but they don't sound like they're crazy about him. I don't think he would work out well. I think he would just kind of flame out like Baker did, but then he would work out somewhere else. But I really do think Cam Ward would work there. I have the Browns either taking Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter right there. But if they do move up, I really think they could take Cam Ward. I think that is honestly the move to do. I don't know if they're going to do it. But I was hearing today was they probably have to give up a first round pick, which seems crazy. But the more and more I watch Cam Ward, he's tough. He can make every single throw. Yeah, he does have some things to work on. A little bit of the off script stuff where he makes mistakes, but he's a baller. He's straight up a baller. What are your thoughts on that, Michael?
My only thing is between the Browns and the Titans, who is gonna grab Ward first? Like who really is gonna need Cam Ward? Is the question. Is the Titans gonna need him? Like, do they really need a quarterback for the first pick, or do the Browns really need, because like you just said, Travis Hunter? Do they need Travis Hunter first, or do they need to address the quarterback situation? Because, like Brandon just said, the Browns have a weak quarterback room. So if Cam Ward is still available, because we all know how this draft stuff goes, we can be like, oh, such and such don't go here, then somebody else end up grabbing them out of nowhere. We just like, dang, I wasn't expecting that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it really depends on what do the Titans do. Like, what do the first top 5 teams in the draft do? And that's going to determine whether Shedeur, Cam Ward, and Travis Hunter, will they be off the table before the top 5 picks are even over. And I agree with what all of you guys are saying. I feel like with Cam Ward, I feel like the best spot for him to be is what Adam said, and that's to go to the Browns, because they really need a quarterback. For a while, I thought Jameis Winston was, developed. I thought he was a little bit better, but, it wasn't really much with the Browns and him. So now it's really determining to where, if it's not Jimmy Ward, is it Shedeur? That's really where the question lies at, in my opinion. But I don't disagree at all. That's just my main point. How long is Ward going to stay? Is he going to stay within the top 5? Is he going to be in the top 10? That's the only thing that I have that is a really big thing to think about.
When we were talking about how to build a team, like a little bit on the last podcast, and we kind of came to a consensus that like it makes more sense to build up the rest of your team than go and get your quarterback. Let's say the Browns did take Abdul Carter at 2nd to go with Myles Garrett. Right? It doesn't matter. Like, and then let's say they signed Jameis Winston for $10 million. Just throw that out there.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't throw too many interceptions and you have that defense on the other side of the ball, like that's going to cause havoc, like, to any team. Like, that would give them a chance in any game. They might be winning games like 13-10. Like, it's not going to be entertaining to watch unless you like love watching pass rushers sack quarterbacks, which I certainly do. But yeah, I mean, you never know.